All right.
Are we ready?
We are ready and rolling.
Hey. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to everyone who's here and also the board. It's been a long time since we've been here instead of on Zoom, so this will be interesting. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No.
No. So without any additions or deletions, I'd like to open for privilege of the floor. You have 3 minutes. This is not recorded. If you want it recorded, you should have your statement during the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like privilege of the floor? I don't see anyone, right? Oh, wait a minute, Rhonda. Rhonda?
Rhonda, you're muted.
Yes, I know that. A number of things I would like to deal with in 3 minutes. First, I would appreciate hearing from David after my 3 minutes to give me some idea of why White Hawk, who I realize is, I believe, a PDZ and has a limited number of dwellings that it can put up, has a dwelling going up that hasn't gone through the planning board. And despite the fact that they may be fitting within their numbered dwellings, I still think that the planning department should be overseeing, at least at the beginning, this new structure that is scheduled to go up. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I want to say that I thought the letter from Mr. Norbert was really off the wall. And that's putting it politely. This business of wanting to put in or transferring, removing, moving, whatever, blue spruces, I want you to know that blue spruces are an invasive species. They are not native, nor are Norway spruce. And I'm going to read you 2 things that I feel you ought to hear, since the first one is about blue spruces specifically. This is from the Canada Broadcasting Company from back in 2017. And the title of the article is "This Invasive Species Makes a Great Christmas Tree and You Can Get One for Free." And it starts off with 3 Christmas trees are available in Alberta and Saskatchewan this weekend for a good cause. The Nature Conservancy of Canada is hosting 2 tree harvesting events on Saturday, one in central Alberta near Red Deer and another in Saskatchewan near Saskatoon, in an attempt to get rid of an invasive spruce trees. The trees aren't native to the area and their presence can actually damage the habitat for other plants and animals. This is a quote. Blue spruces are really common Christmas trees. We have them here in Alberta, but they are not actually native species in our area. In fact, nowhere in Canada are Colorado blue spruces native trees. And this is from somebody with the Nature Conservancy. So that's the first one. The second one is that Norway spruces are incredibly invasive, and my neighbor across the road from me a couple of years ago got a grant to clear cut 9 acres of his property because it was totally infested, 100% infested with Norway spruces. And this is from an organization called Scanning Atlas Conservation Areas, and their website is skaak.org, skaak.org. And it says, and I'm quoting here, Norway spruce have been declared invasive in Mauna Kea National Battlefield Park, Maryland, Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Tennessee, Haleakala National Park, Hawaii, and Cornell Plantations considers it to be, and I quote, moderately invasive in natural areas in the Central Finger Lakes region, unquote. We should not be allowing any invasive species in that solar area. And if he wants to cut them down and chop them up into mulch, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. there anyone else that would like privilege of the floor? See anyone? Okay. So having had people read the minutes, I need a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
You have a second?
Nobody showed up, huh?
I can't hear it either.
Did someone second? Oh, Scott did? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So can we do a roll call? Scott?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. And Leslie isn't here. Joel, do you have anything for the town board liaison report?
I can do that. If you, I think Leslie asked either me or Catherine to do it. And Catherine, you're prepared to do it? Because I'd be happy to defer to you if you are.
Well, what she suggested that I remind people that there is a town board meeting tomorrow night, but number one, from the town board, we also want to express our gratitude for Alana's service of all the time, and that on behalf of the whole town board. And the other is we will be having a discussion, I believe, about the cannabis tomorrow evening, and the meeting is starting with a public hearing about the Bald Hill Road extension. Is that it, Joel?
Yeah, I have a couple things. We're working on the budget, and we did a resolution of appreciation for Amy Cusimano, who, you recall, may know, that was responsible for the pond program for years, and her untimely death is a huge setback for that program. And other than that, I think that Catherine's covered it.
Thank you.
Would it be possible to move the camera so we can see more than Jody and whoever is next to her?
Is everyone coming?
Yeah.
Oh, because there's a,
It just auto moves every once in a while, so. Also, we will do the best we can.
Thank you.
Is welcome to come in person if they want something different.
okay. So we can move on to the development reviews. The first one is the German Crossroad parcel. The applicant is Charles Muirhead. And the possible actions this month are a public hearing, seeker, approve or deny, preliminary, and or the final plat. So, David, is the person here? No. Do you want to give us a brief summary of what we're looking at here, David?
Sure. Got another person coming in. So this application, I'm going to open up the proposed plat and share it on the screen. This application for subdivision has already gone through the variance procedure. So you may notice that although it is in the low density residential zone where 200 feet of frontage per parcel is required, it will create a deficiency. Variance was granted by the BZA for that frontage deficiency. You may notice there is a lot more acreage than required by the low density residential zone. And the fact that there was such a substantial area of land, I think, was a big part of the BZA's decision to allow the creation of essentially subdividing the existing house and allowing the addition of a house on the remainder of the lot. Also included in that application package is a very brief view of, where they plan to put the house, which is far back in the middle of the parcel. The applicant provided a short environmental assessment with their application. And it will be up to the board to do the complete part 2 and part 3 of following the public hearing. Going to get to this other way of looking at it. You can see the existing house with a lot created around it that is conforming, and then a non-conforming lot proposed. The drivers of where the line in the final proposal, that's the one that looks more like a survey, was including some existing outbuildings that are right at the edge of the parcel. This is a largely wooded lot, if you haven't been out there. So this area that would be receiving a driveway and a home is a wooded area.
Thank you. So the next thing is to open a public hearing. Right?
That's correct.
Are there comments from anyone?
I see one.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, Charlie's was going to be on, but he got very sick the other night. He said he thought he had norovirus, so I thought he was feeling better, but he's not here. Sorry.
Well, I thought as a neighbor, I could say something. Is it appropriate now?
Okay. Do I unmute this now?
Yeah, I'm going to mute you. There you go. Joanne?
Yes. No, I'm sorry, my picture isn't showing because my camera on my laptop isn't working. So I don't usually travel with a calf, but anyway, this is the first time I went through a process of listening and learning about these kinds of things. And I was impressed with the thoroughness and the review and the environmental information that was provided. And to me, it just seems like a positive thing for our neighborhood. And I live on German Cross Road. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Rhonda, is your hand up for this, or did you not take it down before?
Yes, I just want to make one short statement. It's my personal impression that we seem to be getting a number of these requests for non-conforming parcels and things like that. And we're getting into what we used to call flag lots, where somebody is making a very narrow driveway going way back into building behind someone else, which we had basically not permitted in the past. And even when we were doing the zoning, we had said that we were going to try to encourage people not to be building on long driveways and all of this sort of thing. So my request is that from now on, including this particular parcel, we need to be asking things. If these people want to do this, this is something we don't really want, we don't feel is good for the town, we ought to be requiring them, number one, to agree that there will never ever be another house built on that parcel, not any kind of house built on that parcel. That parcel will only be a single house parcel, and that parcel will have a conservation easement on it. If they want all of this from the town, then they ought to be willing to give the town something in return. And we need to see those back lots, those big back lots need to be preserved. And that applies also to this Coddington Road business. So I'm requesting that from now on, and including today, we require that if they want this kind of building, that they need to give the town something in return. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Is there anyone else? They're there, but they're muted. Is that Lori?
Yeah, so we just want to make sure that the reason.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, these are the.
You can speak as a public hearing, but come up to the mic so that people can hear you.
This is not yours. Yeah.
Slowly, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm just having a hard time hearing through the mask.
Oh, yeah.
Just go slowly.
We were just confused because we might be in a different like zoning area, we're kind of agricultural zone.
Now, more.
This is, can I,
Are you the applicant?
you're the applicant for the next one, right? You're the Coddington Road one. So let's wait until we finish this one and then we will talk about it, okay?
I'll try to.
That's okay. That's okay. So the owners are Lori and of this one,
Lori, did you want to speak?
you need to
You need
unmute.
to unmute yourself because we. No.
No, okay. All right. So the next thing is, if there's nothing else for the public hearing, close the public hearing. Whoop. I don't know what they want.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. I guess my question is, when they talk about, and I can't remember her name, just a moment, Rhonda maybe, spoke about they should give back something else. So I'm wondering what that something else is, unless it was the conservator easement or something. But what I was going to say was, when we bought this piece of property, it was 23 acres. At the time, we were told that there could be 4 5-acre parcels, and each of those parcels could have a duplex on it, and that the duplex could be a separate building if it were 2 members of the same family. So our original thought was that our sons could build on this property, and now that was deemed impossible. So my question, I think, in the background is, if you are considering doing something about the flag lots problem or whatever, I would suggest that one of the first things the town planning board might consider is, and maybe it's been done already, is stopping the allowance of duplexes on every parcel of land, because that would cut down the density and make it more likely that it would be families moving in as opposed to, landlords with college rentals or whatever. So anyway, that's all. I just wanted to say that we're far from what we thought it was going to be when we bought the land.
thank you. Do you have any comments on that?
Well, I think it's worth pointing out that it would be illegal for the town to suggest a quid pro quo exchange for approvals of an extraction. I don't think a lot more needs to be said than that.
All right, thank you. So the next thing is the seeker. Oh, public, yep. Oh, I didn't see your hand.
Oh, wait, I got it.
We close the public hearing?
Yes, we need to close the public hearing first.
Okay.
Got it? Okay,
Okay.
yes, Scott.
So this is this a 10-acre subdivided low-density residential or 5?
So this is in the low-density residential zone where the average density is 5 acres.
Okay, so you can't subdivide. Can you subdivide? Could this lot be subdivided into 5-acre parcels?
Essentially, the back lot could be further subdivided if the road were put in.
Okay.
Going back.
Okay, and thanks. And I would not regard this really as a flag lot. It's just slightly under 200. It's not where you have a house. Flag lot situation is where you have a skinny little stretch and then you have a house sitting behind another house. So just for the record, I think the flag lot considerations would not apply here. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Does anyone else from the board have other questions or comments? Okay. So the next thing is the seeker. Which you're going to put up for us, right?
I am going to share that screen.
Thank you.
Oh, boy. Just can't sit down.
All right. And I got to move this one too. All right. So our questions for this application for the planning board, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation?
And this is just splitting off, right? It's not building anything. We're just dividing property.
So we're talking about dividing the property and adding a house. Site plan review is not required to add a house in this zone. Which is different from the next lot we'll look at where we're considering a subdivision and a site plan review. We're talking about the house as well because it is a part of the application.
Okay.
Thank you for that question. Okay, let's see. Bill and sign. So, planning board members, do you feel that the proposal to subdivide this lot and add one house will create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? The choices are either no impact or a small impact or a moderate to large impact. Others? Does anyone not feel that it's a small impact? Okay. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? With a reminder here that this is compared to the zoning. So if the zoning does allow, obviously going from not a house to a house is a change, but the zoning for this area is a house per 5 acres. So
I'm going to say that.
No.
will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? And a reminder for folks who haven't seen this before, we do not have any critical environmental areas in Danby. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walking?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the, oh, sorry. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies or public or private wastewater treatment utilities?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna? Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? And will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? All right, I've heard all no's. That leads us to part 3, where we describe if there was any moderate to large impacts, what action we could require that would reduce that impact. We have not found any moderate to large impacts. Okay, so that leaves us with 2 options. Either the board has determined, based on the information analysis and any supporting documents, the application, that the proposed action may result in one or more potentially large or significant adverse impacts, or if the board has determined, based on the information analysis above and any supporting documentation in the application, that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. So we need a motion to select one of those boxes.
Good question. We're not, I know you said it's not making any impact, but can we put in like suggested something dark sky lighting and stuff like that?
Right. So yes, I think that would be appropriate in the approval decision, rather than, oh, there's the applicant, rather than in seeker. Unless you found that there would be a moderate to large impact, in which case it could be incorporated into seeker. So again, we're looking for a motion to accept one of these 2 boxes. I'm going to blow them up there. The bottom one being no significant impact, the top one being a significant impact.
Yes, I'll make a motion for the no significant impact.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Yes.
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 Okay, so the next step is the decision document. Give me a second to save this and I will get that open. And I saw that Charles joined the Zoom. Hey,
Yeah,
Charles.
sorry. Sorry, I'm running late. I have 2 sick kids in the house and I couldn't make it. Are there any questions or anything I missed that you needed my input on?
Planning board? Any questions for the applicant?
so. Anybody? No,
All right, I'm going to share the decision document. Right, so we've got in here, planning board on application subdivision 2022-05 on September 20th of 2022. Someone will make a motion to deny, approve, or approve with conditions the preliminary or preliminary and final subdivision for Charles Muirhead, 204 German Cross Road, and approval subject to the following conditions. A reminder, conditions need to be tied to impacts from the potential development. And we had a suggestion already that would require any new construction to comply with dark sky requirements for outdoor lighting, meaning that lighting is projected down, not up or out across the parcel line, which is one of our components of site plan review. But as we mentioned, this would not be subject to site plan review, so this could be an appropriate place to put it to prevent concerns there.
I would like to add that to as a condition.
Is there anything else that the planning board would like to consider?
Am I reading the zoning correctly that they can't further subdivide the parcel after this point?
So
Or is that only if it's below a certain area?
yes, so it would need to, if a future owner put in a road that created road frontage that went into the back of the parcel, it would be possible to create additional lots because it is so large. That's the only way.
That's the only way. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Any other issues? Okay, does someone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve it with the conditions below. We do preliminary and final.
You can.
we can.
I'm good with that. We're not the second hit.
Thank you. That will be resolution 15. Resolution 15 made by Ed Berkman to approve with conditions the final proposed subdivision at 204 German Cross Road, with the condition that additional outdoor lighting must be dark sky compliant per the Danby site plan review standards.
I mean,
Roll call?
roll call?
Yes.
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 Right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muirhead.
Yeah, thank you all for your decision. And once again, I apologize for being late. In terms of next steps, does this get recorded immediately, or in terms of the sale that occurs next? Is that part of the sale, or is it recorded and then it goes up for sale? And then-
So the to create the lot will be Jocelyn signing the final plat. And we will keep one copy of that. We will give you back any additional copies. You will take that to Tompkins County Office of Assessment, where they will charge you an additional small fee to process the plat. You will then take it to the county clerk, where it will be filed with all of the rest of the county property records. That will create a tax number and a parcel, and you can sell it.
Okay. So thank you very much for all your help and for your decision today.
All right, Jack.
We're all set? Okay. So now we're moving on to the Cottington Road parcel. And David, do you want to give us a brief?
Sure.
And we'll also ask. for
Yep. So,
Family.
David,
yes.
tried like heck to make sense of the map. It's quite busy. I even had, I had my hunting app with all the, I could not. So could we start with maybe, you know, here's a red, like a red marked out area, or some way to delineate exactly what's, what we're talking about here.
Yeah, let me.
And that's not a critique, it's just, you know, just business here.
Yes. So I think the one that it's a little bit easier to see on is the one with the page that has the largest page that has the aerial imagery. It's kind of dark because we don't have a color printer.
The photograph, the aerial photograph?
Yes.
Okay.
I am going to.
Yeah, if you could just, you can put this up on the screen, right?
I sure can.
And then just draw around.
Well, you can't draw on the screen.
Really?
You can't draw on the, you can put the paper, can't you project the paper onto the screen?
Oh, no, cannot.
No, you can't. Oh.
Let's see. All right. So give me a moment to get this parcel, 1496 Coddington. Okay. It's not helping. Okay, this is Coddington Road and the town of Danby border. This is the land that is being considered for subdivision. Where they would like to subdivide, if I zoom in. So if it's okay if I use some informal titles here, my understanding, Grandpa owns this and would like to sell a piece to grandson. Mom lives here. The plan is to use Mom's driveway, extend it onto this parcel to create access to the proposed home. And if I jump to, stop sharing, to that aerial imagery. Right, here we can see, this is Mom's house with the driveway. The proposed new home location. And the parcel that is being subdivided off of is this much larger one that goes off the page. So what they're seeking to create is the minimum lot size of 10 acres. The lines have been drawn with that goal in mind, 10 acres, which is in compliance with this one parcel is in the rural 1 zone. It is a bit of a unique situation where the parcels along the street are mostly in the low density residential. But because this parcel is so large, it was put in the rural 1 zone. So it does require 10 acres. They've provided the 10 acres. That zone does not have a frontage requirement, so they have not provided a lot of frontage, but they have provided enough to meet the New York State requirement that parcels have at least 15 feet of frontage for any future access if the relationship with mom to have a shared driveway doesn't work out, they have an option.
Thank you for your yard clean. Yeah.
What's the total acre?
Of the larger parcel,
72?
Speaking.
oh, you need
Folks,
to
we
turn
can't
the
hear
mic
you
off.
unless you use the mics.
Scott, your mic is turned off. There you go. So get that right up close to your face and they'll be able to hear you.
Well, I don't have anything to say now, except is there good deer hunting there?
Yeah. So the parcel to be subdivided is starting with 72.95 acres according to the county parcel file, which may be slightly different from the survey. Exactly.
And there's no existing structure on that parcel, just on the mom's parcel.
That's correct.
Okay.
So they don't have to have any kind of.
Yeah, we can't hear you unless you use a microphone.
Sure. So because there's that 15 feet, do they not need any kind of document or something in writing that they have access to that driveway?
So the planning board could require as a condition of site plan approval, a shared maintenance agreement for the driveway. New York State requires, in order to issue a building permit on any parcel that's not in what's called an open development zone, that parcel must have access to the highway, a highway, and that has to be at least, well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but 15 feet is considered adequate. There is no other explanation of
You can
what's
drive a car
inadequate.
through
Yes.
Okay.
If anyone visited the site, you may have noted it's quite a hill, and there's an existing hedgerow that I'm pointing at here that the proposed home would be up and behind. If you've driven this part of Coddington, you probably know it for all of the drainage that you see going down this slope. Like someone's been very busy making sure that stormwater has a clear path through the field. So in terms of process for this parcel, this is the first you've seen it, and the proposal requires both a subdivision action and a site plan review action. The applicant expressed desire to have this completed this year based on their planned purchase of a home to put on the site. The normal process, as you would hear this, you would schedule the public hearing for next month, where you would do the public hearing and seeker. You could do a preliminary approval with required changes, or you could do preliminary and final approval at that meeting. I did sign and advertise this application. If the board was comfortable moving more quickly, that is an option. But we do have several, and in particular, because this is both subdivision and site plan review, wanted to make sure that the board had time to consider if they have everything that they need for consideration of site plan review. Again, it's a fairly simple project. So I want to give you options. You have options.
Invite them up to explain it. I mean, I
Yeah.
think I understand it, but in case there's anything we don't know, now would be the time to come up and talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, would that be helpful? So why don't you turn on that microphone? It has a little switch on the top.
Cool. So my name's Levante. My grandpa's given me some land to build a house on. We kind of want to put the house right in this general area right here, right around, away from the house now. But close enough as well. We want to build a house there and just basically raise a family and live here forever, hunt and catch a little bullhead in that pond, and that's really our goal. We don't want to bother nobody. We just want to start a little life over there. That's all I really have to say about it. We want to put it right there, and the only reason we're pushing for it to get done in the next few months and really wanted to get done as fast as we can is because I pretty much had her living in a basement for a few years and she's pretty sick of it. So it's time to get the house going, and that's the only reason we're here. And thank you for the time, really. I don't know. Any questions for me, really? Or
And so the parcel we're looking at is the whole 10 acres? Where is the? Okay, so it hasn't been drawn in yet. Okay.
This is approximate.
Okay.
Coming to the hedgerow. Going across the hedgerow to the stream. Following the stream. Out here. Going straight back. Around there. Here. So that's what you see in your packet. It's actually. Are you seeing that on the next page stuff? Yeah. So this is Paddington. This is the piece that goes back. This is the hedgerow. The pond's about here.
Okay.
I can draw it on here if that's useful.
Yeah, that'd be, yeah. And so the 72 is beyond the frame.
the 72 goes up to this line over here, about like right there, and it cuts down right around here. and goes like that.
So really the applicant is grandfather, right? Not, he's the one whose property is being subdivided.
Right, you can't give it until it's subdivided.
Right, yeah, okay, exactly.
The rest of the acreage, that's vacant, right? There's no house on that.
No,
No, there's nothing there.
Okay, all right.
I'd be comfortable for moving it to doing the public hearing tonight and opening it up and let other people that are here on the call share, but I feel like I have enough to do a public hearing. I don't know if that has to be a vote or just we agree on it, or how does that?
We can certainly open the public hearing if the board is comfortable with that. You could then decide if you want to close the public hearing or keep it open. And you can then decide what action you want to take.
Yeah, I think the only other information I would be curious on, and it looks like it's sufficient because it's more than what's proposed for a driveway, but is that clearance between the creek and the next property to the south? Because it's just like the way you're creating that new lot, you get that pinch point in there. So that's
Well, I think that there's.
like up at the upper corner.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
even a-
yeah, right there.
There is room for a driveway.
You got another.
Oh, that's a lot bigger than you think it is. Yeah, okay, okay.
So,
When I went through this with Mr. West, we, the idea of using the shared driveway is right in his planning book. And that's why we switched to the shared driveway.
Otherwise, they could make their own driveway and go all the way up.
Right.
Yeah, I have no problem with the shared driveway. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was on board, and if anybody, there's something in place to, if they change their mind, or, or in the future, it's big enough to build a driveway, so.
Yeah, somebody, if. The other thing, before you chat, if you could just pull it out and take a look.
My other grandson wants to put a house up there. You might want to use the driveway, go across there. Well, we could put a driveway across up here, and this all up in here is. If he wants to,
But that's not today.
So, yeah.
There's still a lot of language left.
Yeah.
That shared driveway has less environmental impact,
Also less cost for them.
less cost, less impact on the environment.
Yeah, and if something happens, they'll put in a driveway.
Yep.
If she sells her house.
When we do the final house and everything, or the closing.
Maybe, yeah.
Make sure everybody's capable.
I never knew what to do with that land, but now we can do something with it.
All I do is hunt on it, so. it's nice.
And the applicant is aware that before we can do a final plat, so you could approve a preliminary plat tonight if you're comfortable with that, and then we would then go get the survey, come back. If you have any changes you want to see, adjustments, that could be requested at this time, and then they would come back with a final plat.
It's very difficult to hear what you're saying.
What I was saying is that the planning board tonight has the option of approving a preliminary site plan, requesting the final site, excuse me, I'm saying site plan, subdivision, and that the final subdivision plat, needs to be a survey, but the applicant needs some guidance on anything the planning board would want changed, or if this proposal is fine. Then they would come back with this surveyed.
Okay.
So you're telling me I can take this to the surveyor tomorrow?
We have to vote. So, Scott, did you have something else?
well, just, I don't know whether it's relevant or applicable, but would it be, so I'm assuming the land, what's left, 60 acres or so? 60. Yeah, that can also be subdivided into 10-acre parcels?
That's correct.
Okay, is it relevant to mention that if there were some thought about having more subdivision or more houses on that land, that there is a feature where you can cluster them in one spot and then reserve, just so that you know that. Now, I don't know. I mean, is that something that we should kind of mention?
It is worth mentioning. It's not only, can you mention?
Just so you know that.
Not right.
Like, let's say, we don't know, let's say that you got a bunch of cousins and they're all gonna, then this might come into play. That's all. Yeah, because it's a really neat feature of the zoning regs.
So what Scott was saying is that the zoning does enable cluster subdivision, where you take the number of subdivisions that are allowed and you can do them in a smaller space while preserving a larger parcel as open space. That is both an option for the applicant and also an option for the planning board to require. It's a little complicated in the case of requesting only one of the potential, 7 lots that are allowed, but it is within the planning board's power to require either the preparation of a parallel concept of a cluster subdivision or require the applicant to pursue cluster subdivision rather than a conventional large lot subdivision.
But only on this subdivision?
You gotta turn on.
So it's only for what we're doing now, or can we make it for future use? Because they're coming to us now.
Yeah, so you could require them to think of all the future parcels created.
Okay. We want to hear what people think that are in Zoom land.
Yeah. So you got the public hearing?
So we're now in the public hearing.
All right, the public hearing is open. I am looking for any hands. We don't have anyone in the room interested in giving public comment. I see Rhonda has a comment. Go ahead, Rhonda, you have 3 minutes.
I was just wondering if you could give us the percent of slope. I know that further north on Cottington Road, there on the same side of the road, there are a number of houses that are quite high up on the slope. And I have been to some of them. And I know that the driveways are washing out and all kinds of other things due to the slope. So I was wondering, how are you going to address all of that? That's not a comment, that's a question.
It works now. For you guys.
Can't hear what
why
you're
don't
saying.
we finish the public hearing and then the applicant and the board can make any responses they want. Is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment? I see Ted's hand.
Are you recognizing me?
I am recognizing you.
Aha, okay. Couple comments. First of all, is the applicant's name Arsenault as on the application or Arsenault as it is on the agenda for tonight?
Since they filled out the application, I assume they spelled their name correctly. And
Okay,
probably incorrect on the agenda.
Great. I stepped away from the screen for a moment, just as Scott was asking his question or pointing out the cluster option. Earlier tonight, Rhonda used the phrase flag lot. And I think that this one, although it makes no difference for your decision, this one definitely is a full-blown flag lot. My question is more to the planning board or to David. This sort of thing is permitted under the recently revised zoning. What is the worst case scenario for the future if this parcel was further divided? How many more 15-foot wide strips could we have? And could it, could that be done? Has any thought been given to choosing the shape of this parcel either to facilitate or prevent future subdivisions?
Do we have anyone else for the public hearing? don't see anyone, Jody.
Okay. So then we can close the public hearing?
We can close the public hearing and then discuss. You can ask, yeah, the board can recognize the applicant to discuss.
Perfect, yeah, close the public hearing, I guess, right?
Done? Okay.
Cool.
All right, public hearing is closed. Board discussion. Do you want the applicant to come up to the microphone, perhaps for ease, or just bring the microphone back to you? You guys are the only ones here.
I think you like stand up in front of us.
Yeah, I don't mind, well, to answer that question, that's what I'm up here doing. Well, we would just fix it. We wouldn't want to put like, some type of pavement in, because that would make it more slippery because of the slope. That's actually more sketchy of like an option, really. His driveway is more paved and it's really scary. We, right now, in one of the driveways may wash out during a hard rain. We own equipment and we get a load of gravel and we backblade it back in and drive on it a bunch of times and it hardens back up. And that's what we've done my whole life and his whole life, because every time we've oiled and stoned or paved one of our driveways, because of that gradual slope, that's actually, fun to walk up. It runs off, it's slippery. I mean, your car doesn't want to stop once you get halfway down. So I feel like, that little bit of runoff that we might get piled up at the bottom of the driveway is definitely more of a, safer future option than having, accidents, because we had to have some type of runoff protection for our driveway stone. And the house where it actually is, it really, the real steep part of Conkin Road, I'm an avid outdoorsman, I'm always in the woods, it really starts past East Miller Road on the other side of it. Where we are, I mean, there is some slope, as you can see. I mean, it goes from, what is it, like 11 to 1200 all the way to the top, but where we're in our parcel where we're going to put the house is not sloped very much at all. Actually, in our area where we want to put the house is actually kind of flat, just like there's 50 yards between my driveway and my mom's, or 100 yards, whatever it is, where it will be actually less of a slope than her driveway. So the real one that you'd have to worry about is already her driveway, because mine's going to slope way less. And any other questions? Was there another one that?
The other public comment question was just about thinking about the potential future subdivisions and how those could work out.
Well,
it is always a little bit difficult. There's an infinite number of ways you could do it, especially if you put a road back to access parcels through the space that you are creating.
Right.
The parcel shape is, I think it's fair to say, it constrains future options a bit.
It's kind of what we're going for here. I don't really want my cousins moving in. That's not really the goal. They can stay in Rochester.
We have no plans on selling.
No, we don't have any.
They don't even want to have me build here.
If we did anything, we would probably sell the whole parcel and let somebody else work it out. It's hunting land, so.
Yeah. I hunt it. That's what it's for.
I'm sorry, Jody, your comments are inaudible.
I didn't make a comment.
You said something.
I think the applicant from the audience said this is hunting land. They have no plans for future subdivisions. They plan to keep it open.
Yeah, pardon me. My question was not to him and what his plans are, but to you and the planning board, whether a study has been done about what are the maximal consequences, and have you done anything to encourage optimization of the shape, either to encourage that maximal or discourage it?
All right, board. Where does that put us? So there are options. We've had a public hearing. We can declare lead agency. We know that they need to come back next month with a full survey. If you're ready to do seeker, we could, hold on, if I double check and make sure we have, we are not ready to seeker, I believe. Oh, we do. We have a part one, which you have reviewed in the application. So we could proceed to do parts 2 and 3 of seeker, or you could wait to the next meeting on that. If you want to just give them either a formal preliminary approval, you can on the subdivision, or you can tell them that this works for you. They should come back with it surveyed, and then you can take it back up at the next meeting, assuming they can get it done that fast. We know it is hard to get these things moving with surveys in a 1 meeting turnaround.
Is there anything on the survey that we'd want to see before doing seeker, or could that reveal something that might change seeker? I mean, I'm not thinking so, but would that be a reason to wait and do it all next month?
I guess the question is they need both site plan and subdivision. So if you see anything else that you want of them on site plan or subdivision, there is that option we talked about for requiring cluster consideration. That's an option for the planning board, but not a requirement.
When we look at this next month, it's just me. I'd like to see the whole 70 acres with the 10 acres delineated. If that's possible. I mean, I'm sure it is. So I just request that. That's not,
Like
you don't
to a
have to
level?
survey it,
Okay.
just for us when we look at it. We're not asking you to survey the whole 70 acres.
That the plat will show the approximate boundaries from the deed of the full 70 acres.
So just get our 10 acres surveyed, and then you want to see what it looks like.
Just want to see what it looks like compared, and I can't even justify it, but it's just something that would be nice if we could see it. Yeah. Yeah. If it's a problem or anything like that, then don't do it.
That's it.
But and I'll get over there and look at it myself.
Okay, because she has.
Oh, okay, we'll look at it after. Yeah, it's not important, but yeah.
So it's really up to the board if you want to take any action tonight. You could take no action tonight, except say come back with the full survey, and you could consider the full application in 1 meeting next month. Or you could grant preliminary, you could do seeker, grant preliminary approval, and still have to come back next month anyway. That's kind of up to the board which way you want to go.
I don't have a strong opinion either way on seeker, but does anyone have any concerns about future subdivisions and clustering and any of that we need to address with, because I think we'd be better to tell them now before they survey.
I do not.
I think we could address that when it comes up. It's not being presented now. They're not trying to use the rest of the acreage now. I also think we could declare lead agency,
You
right?
can declare
Yeah.
lead agency
Yeah.
and you could complete seeker next time.
And I think the only other thing I'd want to see for the survey would be the septic, because we usually like to review where the septic field's going.
An
And the well.
approximate location for the septic field in addition to the house.
What?
We don't have a septic in yet.
No, just approximate location of where it'll be in relation to the new house.
Which the health department is probably going.
Yeah.
Started this year.
Yeah. But with that acreage, I don't think we'd be trouble finding a spot. to do
No,
it,
it's
so,
just nice
yeah,
to have
right.
it documented on the plan when we approve it. So nothing comes back later.
And
Especially with
because
the stream
there are slopes,
and the
it
stream
is
right next
worth
to it.
considering.
Yeah.
Great.
So we're ready to be lead agency, is that?
Interest in
That's what I
declaring
thought.
an agency.
Okay,
Someone want to make that motion?
I'll motion we declare lead agency.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yeah,
Yes.
Okay. So the applicant will come back with a survey of the subdivision. Let's discuss the site plan, because it's also subject to site plan review. Is there anything in addition that the board would like to see on the site plan? And this can be a separate map from the survey. You can give us two maps. On the site plan now, what we have is the extension from the driveway. This is the picture, the extension of the driveway, the straight line there, the location of the house, that it is approximately 60 by 28 feet. Kelly requested the location of septic. We discussed that there is an existing line of trees. It's not clear on the site plan. It doesn't sound like the applicant has any plans to change that, but if that's something that the board considers important to approving the site plan, it would be good to have that shown on the site plan as something that won't be disturbed. I see a question.
What trees are we, fence line, oh, the fence line?
Yeah,
Those are shrubs and bushes, they're not.
No trees.
okay. They're big bushes.
They're big bushes, we never clip them, but.
I think it would help with the rural character of that space.
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
the protection with the bushes, we just know what trees are talking about.
Yeah, so this is a pretty open field kind of situation, but having the house upslope, but behind that existing fence line, foliage, I think not clearing it is useful. And then we usually discuss if the board wants, especially with site plan review, any additional screening, if you think it's necessary. Views from neighbors, they seem to be pretty far away from everything else there except for mom's house, obviously, but well within the required setbacks. We have an indication of the driveway on the site plan. It's up to you if that is enough of an indication. And what else? We usually just, I'd note that one of our guidelines for site plan review is that we prefer shared driveways. So I appreciate that from the applicant.
agreement for anything? Like, do we care that much if we have a draft agreement on the driveway?
That's up to the board if you want a draft shared driveway agreement or not.
I mean, they're the ones that would, that would be their fight afterwards, if not, not ours. So, I mean,
I don't care.
I don't
I'm
need to
just
see it.
asking. Yeah.
Yeah. I would suggest it, but I don't need to see it.
Anything else or?
When should this take?
I think we would go on because what we're asking for, the biggest thing is getting the survey completed. So I would say when you get that done, contact David and get it set up so you can get on whichever meeting is the next available when you get what you need done.
So we
can't do anything until after the survey is done.
That's right. Yeah.
Which would
We're not gonna be here for the next meeting.
We'll be here.
Yeah. Well, you can connect. You can call into a meeting, but you can also be.
I mean, but if it's turned in, do they have to be here?
You don't have to be
See
here.
it?
Yeah,
I mean, for us
it's
to-
just helpful if the board
Yeah.
has questions, but yeah, you don't have to be here, or some, but not all of you can be here.
That'll be the next month.
The next meeting is October. It is a short turnaround to get documents. To get a survey done that quickly would be impressive because we need it several weeks ahead of time for the board.
I can have that done
Okay,
in a week.
great. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, if you can turn it around in if you turn it around in a week, your October agenda.
They surveyed this 15 million different times, so they know all about it.
Great.
I bet they already put it on.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
that'll make it easier.
yep. Anything else?
Nope.
Yes.
You're gonna wait for the public hearing on the site plan until next time
Public hearing.
for the subdivision.
Yeah.
Because we want to look at the survey.
Yeah.
Do we need another public hearing for the site plan?
I think it's reasonable. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll do that at the next meeting. All right. So we've declared lead agency and done an informal review of the division as a sketch, and we'll do seeker next time, and possibly preliminary and final, as long as the board is still happy with the subdivision plan, and you'll also consider preliminary and final site plan at that time.
Okay,
All right.
any questions or? All right, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have to do the solar farm.
Yep, the last agenda item is consideration of an amendment to site plan condition 1 for the solar farm. We want to wait till.
Yeah, we have two people out.
Wait just a minute. There was a question on the chat about when the October meeting is. The meetings are always the third Tuesday. So the third Tuesday of October is the 18th. This thing has a mind of its own. The camera. Yeah.
Hey, Scott, we're not done. Scott, we're not done. You need to come back. Okay, so the last agenda item is the Norbit Solar Farm.
All
Who
right,
has
so-
asked to site plan conditions.
All right, so in Planning Board Resolution 10 of 2022, the board imposed a condition that the Norbit Solar team work with a subcommittee of the Planning Board on screening planting plans after the panels are built, with the understanding that there was a set budget for screening planting, and that the planting plans that were originally developed were developed before the applicant was required to put aside 20 acres of habitat area, resulting in most of the areas that were to be screened not having any solar panels on them. So the screening proposed for those areas didn't make a lot of sense. The applicant has submitted a request by email that the board consider, rather than waiting until the project is complete, after they've cut down a lot of trees on the site, and then having them go and buy, smaller plants at a nursery and planting them on site. They've suggested it might be a better idea to transplant existing trees that are on the site now before they have been cut, because they would be larger, because the screening would be in place before other work starts, and they feel that it's a better outcome. The trade-off there is that the applicant has requested that their proposed screening plan replace the adopted screening plan and the plan to the planning board after the panels are in place. The board will recall that the site plan for this area, which I think I can get up on the screen momentarily, there is not a lot of parcel panels fronting any other parcels on the site. So. So the applicant has proposed that all of the screening that would be done is these movement of trees. I'm gonna find the map to put up on screen. Here we go. All right. So original screening that was proposed for this site is when it seemed like there would be panels and clearing all throughout this area. So there was screening planned along this property boundary where there will now be no cutting or clearing at all. And there was screening along this boundary where we expected there would be panels all across this area. Instead, this will be left open as grasslands, and these riparian corridors will be left intact, and they have tall shrubs and trees along them, which really protects the views from most of these other parcels. What the applicant has proposed is that the trees that they sent pictures of in their email would be placed along this line as screening for the home that's farthest in. This corridor continues across the Beaners parcel, so that's really the only other parcel that has a super direct line of sight view. The other thing for the board to consider is that we do still have the ability, it was a condition of site plan review, that for a year after the panels are complete, if there are glare issues, and glare is a different issue than just visual, but if there is glare from panels that's hitting someone's house, they are still required to address that with notification within a year of project completion. So changing this condition, if the board is willing to do it, again, would allow them to use some existing trees on the site to transplant them with a giant tree spade that will come in and pick up these trees that are 10, 12 feet tall and put them in these locations. The only other kind of useful thing to know about that, I think, is that this is kind of the staging area for the construction of the road and initial clearing work that's been proposed to DEC. That is not screened by this screening plan. It's really up to the board. If you're comfortable accepting this, if you're comfortable accepting those tree locations, but not accepting the requirement that no further screening be required, it's up to the board. One of the great things about this site is that it is so well screened already. And we did do the site visit where we walked out to here to see, how much you can see through there.
So, just to follow up a little bit. So when they're talking about moving trees, will it help make it block the staging area better, or not make doing that?
It won't block the staging area, but
Still
it
won't. Okay.
Yeah, because the staging area is basically right here. So this is the house that's kind of most impacted.
Oh yeah.
So they're gonna put down gravel here, and that's where they're gonna park the trailer to unload the tracked vehicles. Most of the work being done on site is with tracked vehicles. Well, all of the work is with tracked vehicles once they're, anything that's off. So it's gonna minimize tearing up of the soil, but that means you need someplace to load and unload them and to have stuff delivered and things like that.
Do we have some idea how much time that staging area is needed in order to?
So my understanding is that it's proposed for the initial clearing stage. The entire project is supposed to take a year from the start of clearing to final construction.
My gut reaction is we stick with the original plan. But that's just, as in my first gut opinion is we stick with the original plan and that we review it more when the panels are more complete and see where the issues are, rather than transplanting something now.
Yeah.
And if they truly are invasive, which I don't know the best resources to figure that out. It'd be nice if our landscape expert was here tonight, but she's not.
I will say she didn't have any comments on blue spruce on the Baradas parcel.
Oh, okay.
No problem there, so.
Okay.
And isn't the stuff that we said needed to be put in for screening, it's gonna be so small and isn't gonna screen for a while, right?
It would definitely be smaller than these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So rather than cutting these down and then putting in smaller trees later, they would move the bigger trees instead of cutting them down, correct? That's what we're talking about, and set them up for screens now.
It seems that it would be cheaper. You know, there's tree species that wouldn't stick out, that you could plant, that in 3 or 4 years would be taller than the ones you moved, and much cheaper to plant. That's a lot of money to bring in those huge spade things, and I'm not so sure. I don't know what the success rate would be for transplanting either.
Yeah, I think that would be something that would be important if you were willing to accept this, that you clarify. Yeah, anything that dies.
Trees, and anyway, I planted hybrid poplars, which they would blend in because we have native poplars around here. They don't live for long. They only live 20 or 30 years, but they'll grow like 6 feet a year. And I don't think those spruces will grow very much, if those are the ones you're going to transplant. I appreciate where they're coming from, though. They just,
Isn't the other issue, David, though, that if we say we're going to spruces, but then we're not going to be able to address the glare issue?
No, we would still be able to address the glare issue.
Okay.
But what the applicant asked is that you wouldn't be able to address non-glare issues. So right now with them completing the project and then you saying, okay, we want screening here, that doesn't need to be for glare. It could just be because you don't want to see the panels or, right, there's 2 different things. That's what you can see and then the impact of what you see. If it's glare, that's a higher impact that we built in the ability to say you have to, protect someone from getting a glaring reflection in their window at 5 o'clock or whenever it is.
So the original agreement was that they would have screening all along that boundary.
It was along this boundary, and that was because there were panels here.
Right.
Yeah.
But what about south of that?
Oh, and here, yeah, but that's because they were going to clear here, and there's actually significant existing vegetation here that they're just going to leave.
Right. So that's kind of the question that's embedded in their request. Is it, they're saying, is it okay for us just to do the screening on the north part?
Yeah.
So what if we just said to them, you're fine with the south part because there's vegetation there and there's not going to be panels there, and don't do anything with the north part yet. But, you know, we will want some kind of screen, and we can work that out. I think I don't see any point at all in them trying to dig up those trees and move them.
Is
You know,
one of their
and
fears?
we could be reasonable, like I said, you know, tulip poplars, they're beautiful trees. They grow fast. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not evergreen.
They're not one.
Evergreen.
Oh, you want evergreens? White
Well, I
pine?
mean, otherwise you're only screening half the year.
Yeah. So,
Well, you could have 2 or 3. I subscribe to that totally. You know, you get a couple rows of them with all the branches, you get pretty decent screening.
so is one of their issues is that if we wait till the end and they think that we're gonna make them do all the screening that was originally talked about, even though they feel like it's not needed? We have flexibility with that, correct?
We have flexibility. I would like a certainty on the front end instead of a question at the end.
So that's really the embedded thing that probably concerns them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You get that far and then get it tied up over a couple of trees.
exactly,
Well, plus, they got all these beautiful trees. I was thinking, when instead of chopping them up and making mulch out of them, we could move them and use them for screening.
Well, but moving them, that's really a project. You gotta dig a really deep hole, you gotta try to capture, you can't capture the whole root system.
Well, I mean, you're going to use a tree spade.
Unless it's like, maybe they can, but.
It's certainly so, this can be done. There is a success rate. It's not 100%.
Right.
You know, if you were willing to accept the upfront moving of existing trees, with the argument for that being that they would be bigger, more substantial trees from the get-go, you would want to make sure that you require the replacement of any that don't survive the transplant process.
Yeah, that's the other way to look at it. If
Yeah.
they want to move them, I suppose, you know, if they want to move them, then go ahead, as long as if they die, they got to be replaced.
Yeah. But then the other question is this location of trees where you want them to do screening? Because this precludes you
Right.
from coming back and saying you need to screen somewhere else later, which our other plan was, you know, the current condition is that they finish putting in the panels and then work with the planning board on a screening plan using the budget that they set.
But if there's a glare, we would still be able.
Yeah, you can
Make
still
it happen.
require them to add something to
Just
deal with.
whether they have to look at it.
Because where they are proposing to screen is where one neighbor would get the most.
So this neighbor definitely will have views out this way, but do remember that this is this stream corridor has a lot of vegetation on it. So it is some question to me how much benefit this is. It definitely also, you know, helps. There's just so much vegetation around this site. That's what really made it good, is that it's relatively low impact because there's vegetation all around it.
Julie, I have a quick question. Yes. Maybe this is for David also, but have they done this before?
The question was, have they done this before?
With the tree?
Yeah, so my I don't have any proof that they've done it before. My understanding is that they do have some experience with this. My understanding is also that Russ Nitchman used the same tree spade company that they're planning to work with to move some apple trees off of the site already.
But just recently?
Recently.
So we don't have a success.
No, we don't know how well it went, yeah. But I guess I can't speak to the expertise of the person operating the tree spade. I guess I would hope that anyone operating a tree spade would be in that process, but
Never assume.
yeah.
You're spending a lot of money to have somebody drive that and do that. If you knew there was a low success rate, I wouldn't think you. Yeah.
Never assume.
I
It's
think
flatter
what
down
you,
there.
yeah, I think what you end up with is you getting these 10 to 12-foot trees for the price of a 4-foot tree. You know,
Yeah.
And we're gonna say that if they die, they have to replace it.
Wait, a 10 to 12-foot tree, price of a 4-foot tree?
So in other words, the cost to move the 12-foot tree would be about the cost of buying a new 4-foot tree and planting it.
I can't believe that. You're gonna bring in a heavy piece of equipment, trailer it down here, dig up a 12-foot tree, and that's gonna cost less than going to a local nursery and buying a 4-foot tree?
I think because they're moving so many of them, they're moving 30 of them on site.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I mean, I don't care what it costs, to be totally honest. It's not
I
really
don't
a problem.
either. That raises eyebrows, that assertion. Can't, want to bet?
No.
I just feel like I don't know enough about this.
I think, again, the main thing is, really, are we gonna allow them not to put trees in on the southern part?
I feel like if they're willing to put in trees, like put them in, but we were there, you really can't see anything, but we still haven't seen the lot with the solar panels, so.
I mean, my initial comment to David when he called me up was, hey, that sounds like a really cool thing. You should do it. And if it covers all of the things that need to be screened,
Then we're good.
then the board won't ask you for anything else.
Yeah.
You know,
They weren't willing to
if you
take that
come,
risk, though?
they weren't willing to take that risk. So they said, we're either gonna mow them down because you didn't approve it, or you can approve it and we'll save the trees. Hopefully.
But can't we say they have to put in trees either way? And so they
Yeah.
just decide the most cost-effective way to do that? We're not saying that they can't remove these trees if they need to put the panels on anyway.
Sure, I mean,
Go ahead.
they're gonna cut down the trees. They can move them, and then when we come along at the end, say, look, everything's screened because we moved these trees to here. We don't need to do anything else.
That would be my preference, is just have them figure it out and we just say they did a good job.
I guess what they're saying, because it would cost money to bring in the spade and stuff, if they do all that, and then we decide, no, we want a lot more trees, suddenly now they have to pay for all these new trees as well. And, you know, and I mean, I kind of get that. I mean, you hear stories of, I think we're a pretty reasonable planning board, but you hear
Okay.
stories of all of a sudden, like, you know, I want these types of trees and there better be 12 here and there better be 13 of this type of tree. And all of a sudden, you know, now they're held up from this project because we want, you know, this many pines, this many spruces, and this many, you know, poplars. So
Yeah.
I do get their risks and why they've probably been, the attorney probably told them to not do
Yeah,
it
right.
without,
And, you know, I think we have a similar thought that they have. Our thought is, we don't know if we can trust you down the line. So we don't want to give up our ability to require. And their thought is, we don't know if we can trust you down the line to not require something ridiculous of us. So we want assurance now.
Right.
My other thought about this is that if you were going to put those somewhere, it'd actually be nicer on the neighbor's lot. Between the road and the house than on the solar parcel.
Would they be willing to, I mean, and I don't know, I mean, would we consider, if they move those trees, then the budget, because they said that any afterwards that we can request more shade, but it goes to a certain budget. I mean, I might be willing to, if they actually move those and they agree to replace any of those that die, that if we have a smaller budget for adding more trees, because they will have moved some trees to help with that. I mean, that to me seems like a compromise, and I think I'd be willing to do that. Because I hate to see this torn down just to get added later, but. What budget are they proposing right now?
I don't believe that we set aside a specific dollar amount. It was that we would reallocate what it would cost to do what they had approved, which was planting all along the southern border, that we would reallocate that
Okay.
in wherever the planning board thought it was most useful. So, you know, one thing they did say that they have 13 blue spruces and 12 other trees. If you feel like blue spruces are a problem and you want them to annihilate the blue spruce, you could say, you know, do the 12 other trees and retain half the planting budget for, and which, you know, they may then say, no, we're just going to cut them all down.
Cut down trees instead of cut down. I don't know.
I did a little research, and the blue spruce, of course, it's a Native American tree, but in the West. So it's not native to this area, but it's also not, as the Cornell, called plantations anymore, people say, it's not highly invasive. Now, I've never seen it seed in actually anywhere. It's a fairly satisfactory landscape tree and a very effective screen.
So we're at a bit of a loss without the applicant here to discuss, but it's also, yeah.
Does it have to be today? Like, is this?
Yeah, my understanding is that it's more related to their schedule, right? They are pursuing the DEC permitting necessary to start clearing within the next month.
Before it gets too cold.
Before it gets, yeah. So,
So what else do we feel like we need in terms of information? I mean, could we do some kind of get some other piece of information that would help us decide quick enough if we did it by, you know, email or something like that, and then is that a legal
I think we would need,
decision, or do we have
yeah,
to
we would need to have a public meeting to make any further decision if the board's not ready to make a decision tonight, which would be very understandable, because it was kind of last minute.
So if we propose, like, move all the trees you can, set them up, and cut your ending budget in half, and then we can finish it up then, they could still say no. But if they said no, then we'd go back to the original plan, correct? I mean, that's like, this is what we're willing to do.
We would have to specify that in a resolution. So we're essentially granting two options. Either the existing condition, which is that the applicant will work with the subcommittee of the planning board after the panels are complete to install planting as required by the board. That's option one. And option two, what you described would be to set aside half of that budget and do half of the tree moving that they have proposed. We would want, I think, to identify where on this map those transplanted trees should go.
Yes.
I think you could do that if the board was interested in that.
If not, then it's basically no, I think, because again, can't sit here and talk to them. They didn't show up. So I see those as our two options. Or something like that, 45% or whatever. I mean, we could group decide, but I think that those are kind of the options that I would feel comfortable with.
Since Joel was allowed to make comments, I'd like to make a comment. And that is that, as I said, a lot of the spruces are now affected by a number of diseases, and you will see them all along 96B if you take time to look. And there is nothing that is going to protect those trees that they're going to spend all kinds of money planting. And then they'll start to get disease and then they'll die. And there you will be with your nice screen of dead trees. you can look on 96B. You can come down here on South Danby Road and see all of the spruces that they planted in the Danby State Forest. And I told John Covey, or John the forester anyway, long time ago, I said, this is not going to work. And he said, well, they stabilize the soil. And so now they're all dead and dying and falling over. And why do you think my neighbor clear cut 9 solid acres of Norway spruce?
These are not Norway spruce.
But there's still a spruce and they're still not
Almost
native
got
to
them.
this
Yeah.
area.
Okay, I think that's enough commentary.
Yeah, because I think we need to make a decision one way or another and get
Yeah.
this done.
I might be reading into this, but I just noticed the email on the second email is also a Norbert of Freedom Land Clearing. So I'm wondering if it's a company that's moving the trees is a relative.
Yeah, I believe so.
In which case they probably trust them to dig up the tree and put it back.
We also talked about if the screening were, that they have to make, like, the screening has to stay alive. We had already discussed that if something didn't.
Yeah,
change.
there's usually a duration
We could
for
put
how
that
long
language
that is,
in.
and it's
Or we could
not,
put for 50
it's like
years.
1 year or something, or,
Yeah.
yeah, it's usually not terribly long.
Okay, so does anyone have a proposal that we can at least start with?
I mean, I guess I'll put mine out there and we can decide if we're second or not, but that we give them 2 options. One is the current option that's on the table, no changes. Second option is we allow them to move them to a spot that we have chosen, not just wherever they find, you know, wherever they want to, but where we feel it actually is needed. And as a result, we will cut the budget that's left for us to meet afterwards and plan any additional that's needed. So that they're not on the hook for like the full amount now, because they have done moving trees and stuff to help do it. And where we feel is needed, and maybe it won't even be needed after that, but I feel that that would be what we'd offer them to take. That would be option 2 that they could pick. So that is my,
We haven't seen their budget, right?
but there's been sort of a discuss, right? There's something in mind, or, I mean, like, is there a way of setting a number with that? Or, I mean, how would we?
Well, we could derive a number from what they originally proposed, what it would
Okay.
cost to do that. That's kind of what we discussed, is that what it would cost to do that is the budget. We
Okay,
didn't discuss what that number is, and that will be different in a year than it is now, I'm sure.
right.
But that is, I think, how we would set the budget for the currently agreed to process, would be based on, you know, what someone would bid for what they previously proposed. Which maybe we can put on the screen if it's useful.
And then we also want to add in that they would be like sitting trees that die.
Correct.
Which maybe because they're on site, we could make that duration a year past completion.
That's what I was thinking
of the
after it's
overall
completed,
project.
yeah. So you
Yeah.
switch them now, but after a year after completion.
Yeah,
Meaning,
so that's
anything
2
they
years
plan
from
at
now.
the end of it
There'd
could
be
be
a
a year
similar,
too,
yeah,
so.
yeah.
So what, when he says not even sure what we are screening?
Because there's someone
30 acres
existing.
of grassland are now where the concern was. Well, that's not totally accurate, right? The north section just remains a concern.
Yeah.
I think
Some
that,
minor
I think there is
concern, I think.
some question there. So this was the approved planting. You can see there's groupings of 3, groupings of 3, groupings of 3 along
Can you
this.
zoom in a little bit? I'm sorry.
Can I?
Okay.
Right. Hold on. Let me see.
All right, that's okay.
I'm sure I can. Here we go. Okay, everybody close their eyes.
I thought you could just like click and it would get bigger.
I can get there. It's not cooperating. Okay, so we'll start here. here.
There's some there on the bottom. And then there's more there.
Another window on the way. Okay. So from the bottom of the parcel, initially, this was a question, why are we screening down here? This is all trees.
There's nothing there.
They
Yeah.
proposed screening, and the screening that was proposed and approved is arborvitae, pussy willow, hornbeam, which, you know, some people say arborvitae is also invasive. It's very good at
Which we
screening.
basically said we were approving that for pricing purposes.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
right.
So we're approving that. That's what kind of sets the budget, is this amount of planting. And then this, you can see we're planting all along here, and that's because they were originally proposing that all of this was panels. But this is, you know, tall shrubs and trees in the riparian corridor that's preserved. So there really isn't a view to panels from here. And that's why they're saying, that's why he was saying, I'm not sure what we're screening. There is still
So that's like 64 plants. And they're saying, we're gonna give you 12 trees and then we're not gonna give you anything more.
Yeah. Well, no,
Because
it's 12 plus 13.
down below.
Oh, okay, 12 plus 13.
Yeah.
So
But still, you got a
25
point
for
there, even up
61.
above. Even if we say, well, you still need to do it up above. There's more than 12. This, how many trees are in the plan there? 3. Oh, that's about 12.
Yeah, it's about 12 at the top.
I think this is where we come down to them having a trust.
This sounds like you walk to school or carry your lunch.
You know, is that, because I don't necessarily, I wouldn't want to take advantage of them, just say, hey, let's have them plant trees because they're nice, you know, have them pay for it. I just, as long as we knew the neighbors were screened, and he's right, a lot of the screening is not needed because there's not stuff there.
Yeah.
And we're willing to look at it afterwards. I think we just want to have, and again, a lower budget, but have some final say on, are we protecting the neighbors there?
Right.
So, and they can take, I guess, take that and leave it, you know. So again, I guess, so there's I guess technically a motion on the floor that I made. I'm willing to have them do that, and then we will look afterwards and see what we feel is still needed, and knowing that we can't go over a budget of half of what the current value of the after proposal is, up to half. And that, you know, maybe saying something like up to half, so that
Yeah.
we're not going to use it if not necessary.
Yeah.
So that is my motion on the floor.
I'd suggest that as a component of that, we clarify that none of this changes the screening for the interconnect, which is the location down the hill, and which they did propose screening for, which is.
Is that one of the things they're talking about changing too?
No, but I just want to be real clear.
Yep.
If we're saying that their plan would supersede the adopted plan, that it does not have any impact on that.
I will take that friendly amendment.
I should.
Trying to get that down.
I would charge extra for typing this up.
And I'd also note that there is a bunch of stipulations on the planting plan that are noted as landscaping notes. Those stipulations are not on what they proposed as the superseding. So again, just making clear that all of those requirements, which are things like if the plants die, they have to be replaced.
All that stuff stays in place.
Yeah. It is the screening plan, the pebble and stream landscape architecture screening plan. Yes, it's landscaping notes. They're right here. They're a little
Oh,
small.
that's easy to read. I can't read anything.
Things like standards set forth in the American Standards for Nursery Stock, minimum requirements for plant material derived and installed on the site. Plants must be healthy, vigorous, free of pests and disease. Plants must be climate hardy. You know, this caliper at time of installation is, I think, what David was talking about, and that what he was planning to propose is much smaller than what he would be putting in if he moves these trees. You want to read back where you're at, Alyssa?
There's the first slide, and the second, give me one more.
Oh.
To do with that, looking at it, listening to it.
Yeah.
The board will let them move the trees as proposed, but will change their feature, review screening at the end. And then, I don't quite know how you phrase this, Ed, about the board will offer to add half the budget needed for screening, remaining for screening.
Yeah, I was thinking, do we want to say, so you don't have to type all that stuff in, that we are willing to let them move the trees, keep the initial proposal in place.
Landscaping notes in the
Would you
original-
please repeat everything that you said for the past 2 minutes in your microphones?
No.
No.
Will you
Well,
please use your microphones? When you have a group conversation like that, it is not possible to hear what you're saying.
Come here.
Go ahead, Alyssa.
The landscaping notes in the original landscaping plan will continue to be in place. This also would not have any impact on the screening for the point intercept. So how would you like to state the part about having the budget in?
Please ask people in the audience to use their microphone.
We're reviewing the draft resolution. Nothing of,
How do I do this? Ted, this is Alyssa. I cannot type the resolution while getting the wording correct from the board and using the microphone. I apologize. I will read the final motion into the microphone.
so one thing that I think we were not on base with where that ended up is, my understanding of what Ed was proposing is there are two options. The first option is to keep condition 1 as previously agreed to by the board, which is they are not going to move any trees. They're going to finish the installation of the panels and then come work with the board with a budget based on the previously proposed screening, and the board would tell them where to keep it. I don't think you need to detail all of that, except that the first option is no change. The second option is, rather than what the applicant proposed, which is that they would move, what is it, 12 plus 13, 25 trees. Rather than having them move 25 trees, the board would have them move half of 25. Have them move 13 trees and reserve half of the screening budget from option 1 to be implemented at the end of the project.
If needed,
Yeah.
if more screening is needed. But otherwise, it would be the same as the original agreement. The original first option, everything else about the first option is there. So all the rules, all the notes in option 1 would still exist. Us getting to look at it. The only difference is we would allow it to be less budget at the end, and they can move the trees.
Yep.
board's presenting two options. One, I would keep the proposed screening plan as is.
Yep.
Or two, the board will let the applicant move 13 trees rather than the 25 originally proposed and reserve half of the original screening plan to be implemented at the end of the project before screening.
Yes.
The landscaping notes in the original landscaping plan will continue to be in place. This also would not have any impact on screening to the point.
Yes.
And your motion has been moved around a bit. How are we doing?
I mean, I think we got it.
It's massage.
Yeah, it's been massaged, like, except all the
Yeah.
friendly amendments.
Great. I second it.
Read it.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, for those on Zoom, the motion proposed, moved by Ed and seconded by Scott, is that the board is presenting two options. One, either to keep the proposed screening, well, I guess one is to keep the proposed screening plan as is, or two, the board will let the applicant move 13 trees rather than the 25 originally proposed and reserve half of the screening budget in option one to be implemented at the end of the project if more screening is needed. The landscaping notes on the original landscaping plan would continue to be in place. This also would not have any impact on the screening for the point of intercept.
We got it.
Now we vote,
Okay.
unless people want further discussion.
No. God.
You mean point of interconnect?
Excuse me. Internet.
Yes, that's what Alyssa means.
I'm two different worlds here currently. Seconded by Scott. Will we roll call?
Yes.
Yeah. Burgess.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Davis.
Your mic's not on.
Bonner.
Yes.
Skyler. Yes. All right, that motion passed.
No, that's. We could just stay with the plan, and they could move the trees if they want. I didn't want to say that.
Well, that was what I told them.
You give us the review date. Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Wait, guys, we got.
David, do you have your report? A report for us?
I do have a short report for you, which is that I did process annexations, 2 annexations on, I lost the page. Yes, 552 King Road. So annexations, again, are something that I sign off on. They are not discretionary, but they are reported to the board when they happen. So that's also known as a lot line adjustment. So we had a lot line adjustment at 55 King Road. Other news for you to understand, the town board is still working on consideration of expanding the Hamlet neighborhood zone 1 parcel farther down Bald Hill Road, away from the middle of the hamlet. That will be before the board tomorrow, where they will consider completing seeker and possibly voting on the change of that parcel that's been reduced to just 1 parcel and not 2 parcels as it was before, in response to concern about that. Other planning work, we have submitted in cooperation with most of the other municipalities in Tompkins County, a grant for a Safe Streets for All road safety project that was led by the city of Ithaca, and we would get a Danby road safety plan for us if we win it. We also recently submitted a $500,000 grant for low-income homeowner home renovations that would help people fix up their homes if they have significant issues with their homes, only if they are low income. And I am working on and hoping to get support from the board tomorrow for a grant application to the county to fund a larger grant next year, to hire a grant writer to help us, and with a year-long process to really focus on growth in the hamlet and making that possible, including possibly pursuing the New York Forward grant, which is a new grant similar to the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, but specifically targeting hamlets in rural towns. So that could be $2.5 to $4 million for projects, implement economic development in the hamlet. That's my report.
Good job. All right. So we're adjourned.
Adjourned.
Okay, that's,